Hey guys, it's Zach. Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be answering the big question. Is the A7 IV still worth buying in 2025? Or should you wait until the A7 V comes out? So for the past year and some months, the A7 IV, which I have right here, has been my main workhorse for paid film and photography jobs. Now, I'm not going to bore you with all the specs that this camera has, as this camera has been out for a few years now, and there's tons of videos on YouTube explaining what the specs are. So instead, I'm just going to compare how it holds up to today's standards and how it competes with the newer generation of Sony cameras currently on the market and that are coming out, and whether you should still buy this camera or wait for a newer version, such as the A7 V coming out. I do want to start off this video by saying no one really knows for sure what the Sony A7 V specs are of yet as of today. So everything I mentioned about what I think the Sony A7 V will have is up to my own thoughts on what Sony would be doing, and I very well could be wrong. I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, so let's start off with the video capabilities of this camera. The color science is very, very, very good. It still competes with today's top-of-the-line newer generation Sony cameras like the A1 Mark II or the A7 R5. All those cameras shoot in 422 10-bit, and so does this one. And this camera also allows you to shoot in S-Log3, which is a very popular color profile for Sony's newer high-end cameras that allow you to get really nice cinematic colors in post. Considering the A1 Mark II, which was just released a couple months ago, still has the 422 10-bit color grading science, I personally think the A7 V will probably follow in those footsteps. And so I'm not expecting an upgrade there as far as like, oh, we're gonna shoot in 12-bit cameras now. I'm just not expecting that. And so I think the A7 IV will probably be a safe bet, as to if you were to buy this camera, you're still going to be getting a very similar color profile compared to those newer Sony cameras on the market and that are about to come out. And the reason why I'm referencing the A1 Mark II is because that is Sony's top-of-the-line flagship camera. The A7 IV and A7 V models aren't. So I do not believe the A7 V will have a better color profile picture than the A1 Mark II. I just don't see that happening. So I think it's safe to bet that the A7 V will probably mirror the A1 Mark II, which the A7 IV mirrors exactly. Now let's talk about the video quality this camera offers. So this camera currently shoots up to 4K. It does 4K 24 frames a second and 4K 60. However, 4K 60, it does have a crop factor. You know, if you're used to using your 24-70 lens on this camera and you shoot in 4K 60, there will be a crop. And if you need it to go wider, you might want to either buy or rent a 16-35 millimeter to compensate for that. Now, for me personally, when I'm on shoots, the crop factor in 4K 60 is actually not that much of a deal breaker at all. I think as long as you're aware of it, that it is there, you can work around it. So like, for example, like I've shot weddings on this, and I'll overlay some B-roll footage from that wedding that I shot. And I mainly shot that on a 16-35 millimeter lens with this camera. And I rented that lens beforehand because I knew this camera had a crop factor. And I knew the 24-70 actually might be too tight when shooting in 4K 60. The only style of shooting I see that you might actually struggle if you're trying to get 4K 60 video consistently is perhaps real estate. If you're filming a lot of real estate, you're gonna need that super wide shot to capture, entire rooms of houses. Just because I know wide angle lenses are popular in the real estate space. This might be an issue for you. But I mean, you could always get like, I don't know, a 12 millimeter lens or a 14 millimeter lens. And this camera, even that cropped in at 4K 60 will be good enough. But it's just something to consider if you're in the real estate space. So just like for filmmaking, for photography, this camera is also really, really amazing. You are getting a 33 megapixel sensor, which is more than enough for prints. I've shot weddings with this, I've shot wildlife with this. The photos turn out amazing. There's still enough megapixels for you to crop in if you really need to. I'm really happy with this camera. I love taking photos with it. And I do love the actual hybrid reel, the wheel that you get on the back of it, because you can switch from video mode to photo mode. Cameras like the A7S III or the FX3, it does not have that hybrid model. So that is a plus for this camera. Now, I have seen rumors about the A7 IV perhaps coming out with the 44 megapixel sensor, but I've also seen rumors of it coming out with a 33 megapixel sensor. So I'm not sure what it's going to have. Obviously, 44 megapixels is better, but it's not drastically better. And if it comes out with a 33 megapixel sensor, then it's the exact same sensor as this camera. So considering that the A7 IV will be sold for a brand new price, and you can probably get this one at a discount, I mean, hey, save some money, put that towards a lens or batteries or mic. I don't know, the choice is up to you. So on the professional use and features of this camera does have 2 SD card slots right here. So you can dual record, which I actually do for weddings, just because, in case an SD card fails, you always have a backup. And weddings is one of those things that you cannot replicate. So yeah, I always definitely recommend shooting with 2 SD card slots if you're gonna be doing weddings. And this camera is perfect for that. The other thing I love about this camera and this generation of cameras is Sony actually installed the fully rotating screen on the back. I don't know if you guys remember, but the previous models like the A7 III, A7 II, or even the A6600 lineup on their crop sensor cameras, they did not have this full rotating screen. They had the old school style Sony cameras where they like flip up in the back, and they only do that. I'm currently shooting on my old A6600 right now. Although this camera still works very well, it doesn't have the fully rotating screen out. I have to like fully pop it up behind the camera. And so that was a very welcoming upgrade to this generation of cameras. And I'm sure the A7 V will still keep it. Or they very well could install the screen from the A7R5. And the A7R5 has like a fully you gotta like look at it, but it's like a fully, you can lift it up, you can lift it down and flip it open and everything. It's cool. I've used it before, but I mean, this works perfectly. I've never had complaints about this. The other thing that's great about this camera is it does have pretty good battery life. I currently own 3 Sony Z100 batteries, and that's enough to last me through an entire day of shooting, like weddings, for example. And that's because as I'm shooting, I can always charge the other 2 batteries, so that when one dies, I can always plop in another one and keep going. But I find 3 is usually solid enough to get me through a whole day, and that's with shooting in 4K at 60 frames a second. So if you're shooting in 1080 or even 4K 24, it'll probably last you a bit longer. Now, obviously, if you shoot non-stop and you just let record and then leave it, it's gonna die quicker. Obviously for weddings or, wildlife shooting, you're mainly, recording for a bit and then you stop it and then walk and then get your second shot. And so it's not a continuous record. So just keep that in mind. So to answer the big question, is this camera still worth buying in 2025? In my opinion, yes, it is absolutely still worth it. However, I will say that since this camera is late in the cycle, considering this camera came out in like 2020 or 2021, and Sony's already leaking that an A7 IV is probably going to come out within the next year, you could buy this camera brand new, but I would recommend being a bit smarter with how you approach buying this camera. For example, I do know that Sony does have seasonal discounts for this camera, and I've seen it like $500 off, brand new. So instead of it being $2,500, you can get it for $2,000, which for brand new, that is an amazing deal. The other thing you could do is perhaps buy this camera used. I personally bought mine used, and I bought mine early last year. February of 2024, and I got it for a great price. I paid $1,850 for it. After tax, it was like $2,000, and that is a great deal considering brand new. They're $2,500. So I saved like, oh gosh, probably like $650, almost $700, and then I went and put that extra money I saved towards a lens. And if you're thinking about buying it used, I definitely recommend reputable camera shops such as KEH or B&H, or if you live in Austin, Texas, like me, Precision Camera, which is where I bought mine. So to wrap up this video, the Sony A7 IV is still an amazing camera. No, it does not have all the super fancy AI features that the newer generation is going to have, but that does not make it unusable for professional shoots. And if you're thinking about buying one, or you're on the market today for a camera and you need to buy one, I would definitely recommend it. Just be smart with how you go about it, which means either buy it used or just wait for a seasonal discount that Sony offers. So if you found this video helpful, please give it a like and share it with anybody who might need it. I will be linking the A7 IV down below in the description for you to check out, along with all my other camera gear that I own, in case you're interested in checking that out too. If you guys are interested in supporting more of my work, feel free to check out my print shop that's available on my website now. I just created it and I'm selling some pretty sick wildlife photos on there. So if you're interested and want some wildlife photos in your home, feel free to check it out. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see y'all in the next one.